experiences of the next generation and examine ways to keep those who have grown up here in the U.S. engaged in Nepali culture. So I'm going to start by giving a little background on myself, and then we'll move on to the panelists who will also tell you a little bit about themselves. So my name is Pribisha Bhandary. I am a senior at George Mason University. My family and I moved to the U.S. when I was in 2000, so I was 1 year old then. So I've spent my entire life here. And I've actually spent maybe a total of 5 months that I can actually remember in Nepal. And so this question of how to maintain Nepali culture while living in the United States is an important one to me. So I'm going to let the panelists start now.
Okay. Good morning, and also Savarlai. My name is Prayatna, and first of all, I want to give a big thank you to IDI and with collaboration with Embassy of Nepal to give this opportunity not just to talk about culture diversity and all, but giving a chance for second generation to speak up about this, because I do think it's a big issue that a lot of organizations don't address it in many of the programs that happens in Nova and Baltimore and stuff like that. To give a little bit of background about myself, I moved to US in 2012 when I was a sophomore in high school, so I just started my grade 10 in here. And talking about cultural diplomacy, the biggest thing for me, the definition for someone who moved in when I was 15 and starting a new life at a new place where I don't know anyone. I don't know the culture, I I barely know the language, I don't know anyone. So how do I describe cultural diplomacy? So for me, it was the hardest thing was to balance the two cultures, because I had just come out of Nepalese culture and I'm trying to put myself into a new culture, and how do I do it? So the biggest the struggle that I went through was to balance and find like my own identity in this new culture, and also trying to maintain my own Nepalese identity at the same time. So for me, just to want to share a little my struggles through high school was my sophomore year. Basically, I didn't have any friends just because I didn't know anyone. But good thing was that one of my teachers in high school, she was also an immigrant way back, and she understood the importance of having your cultural identity with you for as long as you live, because that's your root, that's where you come from. And she started this organization. It's called ICU, International Culture United, where not just Nepalese but culture like all over the country, all over the world, they came in, and we used to do programs once a year where we would like bring our food or bring an art, or we do like some kind of dance or singing and stuff like that. But when I graduated, and now currently right now I'm a senior in George Mason University, the biggest thing that I found was it's always limited. So if we were, like for example, when we did in high school, it was only limited in high school. We didn't have anywhere else to put our culture outside. And well, personally speaking, I never got any invitation or anything, any approach by any programs that happens around Nova area, that they would like invite us personally to come in and then do something. It would always come through our parents. It was never a direct communication between second generation and then the people who would organize stuff. And I think that's where I personally find a big difference, where that second generation are not being involved. It's not the fact that we don't want to be involved, it's just that we never get approached. We always get approached by our parents, or hey, like even for this, I first got approached by my dad, and then someone uncle told me, like I contacted him directly, and then we organized this. But and coming into college right now, for me personally, I love Nepalese culture. And then coming back, looking back in Nepal, and since being in US, I've been back to Nepal twice, and I've always loved it. And even in George Mason, like someone uncle said, we organize a Nepal night once a year, and where we perform like dance, singing, we do fashion shows, and where we show our Dora Sural, Gunyo Cholo, national clothes and stuff like that. And that's amazing. And I do see that a lot of second generations are interested in that, because we always have a lot of performers that want to perform Nepalese dance in Nepalese clothes and stuff like that, but we don't have time, so we always have to say no. But the thing is, we do have so many programs just outside of George Mason that happens all around Nova that should promote second generation as well. And I think the biggest gap is communication in terms of cultural diplomacy. And I think that's something we should all address. And like Suman uncle said, like we are the future, and we are the ones who's going to take our culture to third generation and the generations to come. So that's the biggest issue, and that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Namaskar sabaijalai, and hello. मेरो नाम चाहिँ Shreya Lohani हो, and I'm actually also a freshman at George Mason University right now, getting my bachelor's. So म चाहिँ 13 वर्षको थिएँ म अमेरिका आउँदाखेरि, so it was around like 6 years ago, pretty much. I didn't know like what this was gonna be like, my life was gonna be like. Like imagine growing up in Nepal for 13 years of your life, and then suddenly like your dad is like, oh yeah, we're gonna move to a different country, you know, like there was a big like aha, oh my god, like something's gonna happen kind of moment. And after coming here, I did realize there's so many things I had to just, you know, like sink in, like know what I'm talking about. Like when you know, like you go to your school and you feel speechless just because of the fact that you don't know the language that they're speaking here. And I feel like even the third generation and more generation to come, when they go back to Nepal, that's what they feel like. They're speechless. They don't know what their country is all about and where they come from, their background and stuff like that, you know? So the main focus when I see like culture diplomacy and like every single speeches that I've heard, like you guys are amazing, like everything that you guys have said, it's just about the fact that communication is like number one thing when it comes to just having a diplomacy, I feel like. Because for me to be here, again, thank you Suman uncle for inviting me. I didn't know about this program. Like I didn't have initiative to come. And then I realized, come on, like she's gonna be here, you know, like I was like, aha, I need like everyone needs that initiative, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for like Suman uncle and you. Like she's like the perfect example, you know what I mean? Like everyone like looks up to her and stuff like that, and it's amazing to be here sitting next to you. It's just amazing, you know? So I feel like for even like third generation, fourth generation, they need to have initiative to do things. Like let's say, what is the initiative for me to go back to Nepal and create my own business? What is like, we move here, you know, we move here. हामी यता आउँछौँ, यतै settle हुन्छौँ किनभने we have so much opportunity and stuff like that. But what is that one thing that could lead us back to Nepal? What is it? Is it the business approach? Is it the culture approach? So I feel like if you can teach your kids that, and if you can learn that about yourself, that's gonna be perfect for like if this for everything pretty much. So, thank you.
Alright, so I've actually prepared a few questions that I'm going to ask them, and then from then on we can open up the floor and you guys can ask me some questions as well. So first of all, you have spent a significant portion of your life in the United States. What has been your experience with finding the balance between your Nepali identity and your American identity? Have you struggled? Is there an imbalance? And if so, what can be done to help with that?
Oh my god, I can talk literally forever for this topic because, again, I came here when I was 13. I felt as if one of my feet was in one boat and the other one is in the other one. So I was in America, like, body-wise, but my mind was over there, you know? So I felt super just in between, like, America and Nepal. And that was a really big struggle because the language one, I would stay up all night and learn English just because I didn't want to fall behind, just because I didn't want to be weak in academics and stuff like that. And a lot of people, when I tell them it's been only 6 years, everyone's so surprised that my English is really good or something like that. Even like the culture-wise, like how I was able to fit in like really nicely. It's because of like I put so much like effort, like being here and learning the fact that I have this opportunity to be here, like that kind of thing, right? And for the biggest difficulty is my parents, like, I don't know about like you guys, but my parents, again, they really do force like the culture part in me. Whenever there's a Teas festival on अनि तीजहरु फेस्टिभल हुन्छ कि दशैं हुन्छ कि तिहार हुन्छ कि सबैमा हामी लाइक मेरो मम्मी भन्छ लाइक मन्दिर जानुपर्छ यस्तो यस्तो सानो सानो कुराहरुले हुन्छ नि that's like the good part, but we still struggle because नेपालमा like छोरी मान्छेलाई, especially छोरी मान्छे like me, छोरी मान्छेलाई चाहिँ राति घरमै बस्नुपर्छ हैन बेलुका फेरि I can't like ever go to like out of school like trips overnight and stuff like that. The difficulty of this हुन्छ अनि फेरि अमेरिकामा चाहिँ के छ भने it's everything's independent क्या like parentsहरूले भन्दैन नि त हुन्छ नि यस्तो कुराहरू अनि I struggle with that the most because my parents, I feel like they should be more understanding for that, but it's also I should be in their shoes too because they grew up in some like a totally different like atmosphere than I'm going to. Like that's what I struggle with the most, pretty much.
Yeah, for me, the biggest struggle was just like she described, pretty much everything she described, and one thing. To overcome the struggles that I had, I want to give like huge credit to my family, just because the fact that my dad, or Timilsina, he's really active in Nepalese society, and he goes to a lot of programs. So that kind of forces me to go to programs like that. Kind of sometimes like he would say like let's go together like a family, and we would go together. We'd go to like different events. He would probably MC or something, and I would like volunteer and stuff like that. So that way I'm connected, right? And another thing is the fact that even at home, to this day, I've never talked to my parents in English. Like we discussed earlier, whenever you go home, inside home, we talk in Nepali. You know, we do everything in Nepali because at least like our home is like, especially if you're an immigrant, our home is the only place where you can actually learn culture. Because, you know, if you go outside, like the moment you step outside the door, you're in like a different culture. You know, you speak to people in English and stuff like that. But home is the only place where you can actually talk about your culture. Like from the food you eat. How many people here, like they've been here for so many years, right? But like at least once a day we need dal bhat. You know, that's a culture right there. You know, the thing like the language that we speak, the clothes that we wear. Those are all culture built in, and I think it has to be started at home. And I've been lucky enough that my parents have always put that effort in me to have all that the built-in culture, even though we're far away from home. And another thing is like in order to overcome like second generation gap in the culture, I think it has to start within family because they can always have like even at school I have so many other friends than Nepalese. And what I'm trying to stress is that if we all want to make a difference, build our culture together for a second generation or generation to come, it has to start at home. It has to start with parents. And especially parents, there was like this event about a month ago in Burke where we talked about the culture difference between first generation and second generation. And we concluded that it all has to be started at home. A lot of parents, when they come here, they think that, oh, like, my kids like will fall behind, so I have to start speaking them in English at home. And that's, in my point of view, personal point of view, I don't want to offend anyone, but in my personal point of view, that's really bad. They're gonna learn either way when they go to school. But home is the only place where you can actually go back. You can, like, that's like being in Nepal, because it's your home. You talk in Nepali, you eat dal bhat, you do singing and dancing at home. So again, like, the most important thing is home is where it all gets started. Thanks.
Yes. After, yeah. So before I know, a few of the other panelists spoke a little bit about the abundance of Nepali students coming to the U.S. and going to school here. And I know that the topic of students going back to Nepal came up. But my question for you guys is there something that students who, or just people like us who came at a younger age and get an education here can do to aid Nepal without having to go back? Is there a way for students to help here in the development and the cultural diplomacy of Nepal?
I definitely think that's a really good question, actually. I'd like to say that. But right now, in this generation, social media, get it or not, social media has such a big deal. Like, I don't know, today in this panel, I didn't really hear a lot about social media that much going on topics, but I feel like you guys are missing, even like my parents and stuff like that, they miss out on the point social media and how much of a big deal that has in our life right now. Literally, right now, if I scroll my phone, right now, I can find everything, everything. If I want to find something out about Nepal, if I want to find something about, Cambodia, Vietnam, it doesn't matter where. Social media can just lead you to so many places and, find so many things. And for Nepal and us being helpful to Nepal, I feel like social media can play such a big role. Let's say if there's an event going on, donations and stuff like that. We hear all these earthquakes and stuff like that. A lot of people here helped people in Nepal through social media, like giving out money, charity, and work like that. And people can find out, like, even information, our parents and even us, we found a lot of events that happens in Nepal through social media. And for, like, big figures like Komoli, like Miss Komoli, like, she can play such a big role, like she does too. And even for like bigger actors like Amol Casey, like even big figures in social media, they can play such a big influence in Nepal itself. And for us to give back through social media and thinking what we can do through that, I feel like that's gonna be make the biggest difference, especially if we can't be in Nepal. For me personally, I actually want to go back to Nepal after I'm done with studies here. That's because no, that's because I have an initiative to Nepal. So when I went back this summer after almost 5 years, I stayed here and then I went back to Nepal. I saw all these like things that I just didn't want to see. Like, let's say, I'm not gonna like lie to you. There were moments I cried, and I have a really weak heart when it comes to like events that happens to people, and just the fact that it was a moz. There's सानो story भन्छ ल. So मेरो सानोदेखिको बिहे थियो हैन, मेरो like मेरो ड्याडीको बहिनीको हैन बहिनीको बिहे थियो हैन. अनि मलाई चाहिँ फेरि like kids work like labor हुन्छ नि, child labor. I hate that. It's like out of my feelings. I hate it. No matter what happens in my house, it doesn't matter. I hate it. And it's like everyone does too. It's like right now it's in the law हुन्छ नि. अनि एउटा सानो फुच्चीले भाडा माजिरहेछ हैन. अनि म चाहिँ ड्याडीलाई गएर सोधेँ, ड्याडी यो के गर्छ हजुरले, लाइक सानो फुच्ची किन भाडा माजिरहेछ भनेर यसरी सोधेँ. And he told me he knew he was in trouble. Like he knew he was in trouble, right? So he told me he was like, हैन त्यसको मम्मीसँग आको हो भनेर यसरी ढाड्स्यो, like हुन्छ नि. अनि my dad didn't know either. He had contacted like the hotel management team and they sent the girl there. अनि म कोठामा गएँ अनि म रुन थालेँ. Like legit, I cried for 30 minutes. Like I'm not even kidding. So यस्तो सानो सानो कुराहरुले मलाई कस्तो realize हुन्छ भने if I can go back and make a difference in one person's life, maybe they can share that हुन्छ नि. मबाट like एकजना मान्छेसँग start हुन्छ नि त. Like if I give back to someone, that someone is going to go give back to someone else हुन्छ नि. So that's the approach that I'm looking into. And if I go to Nepal, like I know for the fact after I'm done with my education, I want to go to Nepal, right? But if I do that, I want to start with that one person, and so that more person can just happen.
Adding on to that, like if we want to view like the legal way, I know it was brought up earlier with the NRN, non-residential Nepalese. A lot of students here, like even my friends, when I talk to them, if I ask them, you know, are you gonna go back to Nepal? A lot, like let's be honest, like a lot of students don't want to go back to Nepal just because they have just been adapted to the lifestyle here. And I don't find it any wrong in that, as long as you make contribution back to home, right? And I think that, I don't know much about NRN, but as much as I know that if, with the help of that, a lot of students could still fulfill their dreams that they want to contribute back home. Like, you know, they can start a business. They don't necessarily have to be there 24/7, but they can still start an organization. And like she said, like, you know, have like organization that helps across Nepal, and not just Nepal, limited to Nepal, but all across the world. And I think that's something that all like second generation can contribute back, because we have so much opportunities, so much higher quality of education, and we can all learn and give something back, because we all owe something back to our motherland, and that's how I think. Thanks.
Okay, so final question before I open up the floor for you guys. What development would you like to see in cultural diplomacy for the third generation of Nepalese Americans here?
Okay, so for this, like I said earlier, I think the biggest thing we can do is help by starting at home. Because for our third generation, like let's say like I'm probably gonna have kids here, they're gonna grow up here, but that doesn't mean that they won't know Nepali. You know, that doesn't mean that they won't know what Dora Surat is. They don't know where like our home, our language, our dresses and stuff like that. So the best thing we can do is get them involved since they're young. And you know, like there's a saying, "Sano nani malayako bani jandena" bhन्छ नि. So the same way, why can't we you know, insert the good things like when they're young, so that when they grow up to be, it's so harder for them to take it out, even if they want to take it out, you know. So we can all start at home, having them involved, because I know there's a different programs that happens where I've seen like little kids perform. I've seen like I know there's like Nepali Pathshala that's opening. There are already 2 or 3. Yeah, and then they teach kids like in Nepali writing, speaking, dancing, and stuff like that. And even our university, we have Deusi Boilo every year. We have culture show. We have other different programs where we do volunteers and stuff like that. So we go around, we try to make people involved as much as possible. So for third generation to come, only if we could provide opportunities, especially big organizations around Nova, that could provide, like she said, like initiatives for them to come. Like, I don't know, maybe scholarships. You know, like how hard it is to like fund $500, and you can have like, you know, if you come perform, we can like fund like scholarship, and one of the like, you know, group will get it and stuff like that. So if we can give out more incentives, give out more opportunities, I definitely think culture diplomacy wouldn't be as hard as it is a problem right now. Thanks.
So what's my take on this one? This is a delicate topic. That's what I think. As a like first generation, I would like to call myself a first generation, even though I came here just a high school student. But what Prayatna say when it comes to initiative, like, it's like the biggest thing. That's what I think. Initiative is one of the biggest things. Why are you guys here? Like, I'd like to ask, why are you here?
We are here to hear you.
To hear me. But what is your no, that's not the right answer. What brought you here? That's like the main
Somebody
thing.
took the initiative.
Yes, someone took initiative to like actually make the program. From why I'm here, I'm a big fan. So like I feel like if you can give your third generation kids initiative, oh, it's nani hera program आछ है किन जाने त मम्मीहरु सोध्छ होला हैन अनि हजुरले चाहिँ ए स्कलरशिप प्रोभाइड हुन्छ तेरो कलेजलाई हेल्प हुन्छ ए डान्सहरु छ डान्समा तँलाई रमाइलो लाग्छ यस्तो प्रोग्राम छ उस्तो प्रोग्राम छ नेपालको बारेमा भन्छ like यस्तो यस्तो if there is like a benefit to where you actually want to go to, that's why kids will go there. So I feel like for us as a parents and people who organize this program, if you can provide initiative to your kids, first generation, second generation, doesn't matter. They're gonna show up there, trust me. Like for me, if I wouldn't be here, if it wasn't for her, you know what I mean? So you have to have that.
Thank you,
I feel,
Dad.
yeah, that's it.
All right, I guess we can open up for questions now. I think we can do the same thing where we line up to the podium. I think that'd be easiest.
Comment to you. Just I forgot to introduce them. So just to let you guys know, Prayatna sings amazing Nepali songs and plays guitar.
Yeah.
And Shreya, how I met her was she was in high school, same high school with my daughter. So there was a dance tournament, competition, something. So my daughter put together a team of some Nepali students. There were about 12, 13 Nepali students that year. So she put together a team and they applied that they're going to perform Nepali dance. Then her teacher called. She said, well, there is one more application from one girl. Her name is Shreya Lohani. She also wants to perform Nepali dance. So they teamed up together. And their dance was the top dance
Yeah.
of the year. And as a result of that, they opened up a Nepali Students Association in the high school. So there are lots of initiatives these kids can take, and those kids should not be overlooked by Nepali organizations outside or the embassy. I think there's lots of ways how we can engage them. And she's an amazing dancer too.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone. I think I know each of them. And actually Prayatna and Shreya, they gave already a lot of talks, but I have a question to Pribisha. I know her from very little, while she was maybe 3-4 years, maybe something like 5 years. So she is my friend's daughter, and I have a question that since you came here very early, and as you guys already mentioned that you are carrying two cultures together, you are facing that. In home you have one culture, and when you go out you have another culture, you have to survive. So how was your kind of what is that, peer pressure kind of thing when you are carrying two cultures? That is one question for you. And at the same time, my daughter came here when she was 5 years old, and she did her master in public health, and after her master, she went to Nepal, and she there for more than 2.5 years there. She primarily lived in Rasuwa first. Second place is Sinduli, and Sinduli Kamala Khoj, and third is Moram now. And now we talk, and she said that I am in Moram and in Solapur somewhere, which is a kind of very kind of town, city compared to Rasuwa, so don't worry about anything. I have house here, I have room, I have doors, so don't worry about it. So I have lot of food, she says like that. But while she was in Rasuwa, एकपल्ट के भयो भने रसुवामा छँदाखेरि एक दिन बिहान उसले हामीलाई चाहिँ रुँदै फोन गर्यो र किन छोरी के भयो तिमीलाई भनेर हामी अलिकति चिन्तित भयौँ। उसले के भन्यो भनेदेखि जुन घरमा बसेर त्यहाँ खाना पेइङ गेस्टमा चाहिँ खाना खाने गर्थ्यो, त्यो घरमा खाना पकाउने नानी चाहिँ 17 वर्षको थियो छोरी, र त्यो छोरीले खाना पकाउँथ्यो, र उसको बहिनी यहाँ मेरो अर्को कान्छो छोरी चाहिँ त्यही ठ्याक्कै 17 वर्षको थियो, र मैले चाहिँ एभ्री टाइम उसले मलाई चाहिँ खाना पकाएर दिँदाखेरि म मेरो बहिनीलाई सम्झिन्छु भनेर, मेरो बहिनीले अहिलेसम्म चिया पकाउन जानेको छैन, म यहाँ कसैले खाना पकाएर खुवाएको मैले खाइराख्नु परिरहेछ भनेर भन्थ्यो एउटा कुरा। अर्को कुरो चाहिँ त्यो जो बहिनीले खाना पकाउँथ्यो उसलाई, ऊ चाहिँ गर्ल्स ट्राफिकिङमा परेर रेस्क्यु भएर आएको थियो, तामाङको छोरी रसुवामा है। त्यो भएर ऊ त्यसले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ ऊ एकदमै भावुक भएर रोएको थियो। तर त्यसैले मेरो चाहिँ सबैलाई के कुरो हो भनेदेखि तपाईँहरू यहाँ पढ्नुभएको छ र चाहिँ थिङ्क अबाउट ब्याक होम इफ यु क्यान डु एनिथिङ। थ्याङ्क यू।
Okay.
Just
So,
take all the questions.
okay, all the
Okay. First of all, 3 ladies, you look stunning. Young man, I always wanted to have that hairstyle when I was in Nepal, but never happened.
You don't know how to do that.
Yes, exactly. Didn't get a chance to do that, but by the time I came here, I lost my hair. I can't do it. But anyway, a couple of things here. When my Bhandary, when she came, she was probably, I think, 4th grade or something. One of the things that I encouraged her to do was to teach English back to the school she came from, and she actually volunteered to teach English once a week from Skype, and she was teaching schools in Hetona. 1 week, so the deal was this: for 3 weekends, she had to teach English to them, and 1 weekend they would teach her Nepali back, so that she could continue to do that. And that went on for 2 years. That really helped. So that is something, being using social media for a good cause. You know, you can actually, because Friday night here is Saturday morning in Nepal, and it's a free time for kids, whatever family. That was a boarding school kind of, kids where they needed help, those kind of kids were there. So that was one thing. The other thing I have started doing, and which I did, and the phase 2 of that is happening, the same student, my Bhandary, I took her to Nepal 2 summers ago, and she enrolled in Bhandary Country School for entire summer. Her 2.5 months in Nepal made such an impact that, because based on that SS, she won a full scholarship to go to United World College in Canada. She's right now doing a IB program there. So because of the success of the program, I'm taking this year 4 students to Nepal to enroll in blind country during the summertime, and they are going to be involved, and they are ranging from 9th, 10th, 11th grade. So 2 females and 2 males are going this year. My question to you guys is, one of the biggest challenges that as a parent we are dealing with is, how do we convince our kids? I know I heard we need to take them to more. If there are any other ideas, I need more ideas. I'm going to incorporate the ideas that you guys already gave, but I need more ideas on how to make our culture attractive to the kids, because that is the biggest challenge that we're facing. Saying they're listening to all these kinds of songs, they're listening to all the things, and then all of a sudden, oh, I don't want to eat dal bhat today. No, I don't want to have the Nepali dance. I don't want to do it. So we're facing the challenge. So any ideas from you would be helpful. Thank you. I will take that answer in the end.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
So what are you doing for your kids?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
So here are a couple of things. One is I am trying to encourage them to learn Nepali,
How?
at least at home, because we try to speak that at home. That is one of the things that I picked up. It's very hard, but at least grandparents, they are forced to speak in Nepali with grandparents. So that is one thing that I try to celebrate all of our current cultural festivals with them, trying to make sure that they understand what it means, because sometimes there are ridiculous things even within the culture. It is very hard to explain to the kids, and it doesn't make sense to them. Number two. Number three, I actually bought all of the textbooks from Nepal for each grade, all the way from first grade all the way to the 10th grade. I was hoping I could make that as a part of the curriculum. That didn't go anywhere.
No, it's not gonna work, trust me.
It did not work.
That wouldn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work. So I'm doing trial and error. My girl is 9 years old now. She's going to be 10 soon. But I'm trying. But I took her to Nepal, and that changed. That made all the difference.
Right.
After that, a lot of that idea changed. That she wants to go back again there, because I'm going back in May. And she wants me to take. I said I can't take you in the middle of the school year, but she wants to go in the middle of the school year too. So, but there are a couple of things. So those are some of the things. But I need more and more ideas. I think one idea alone won't work. So we all need to share multiple ideas. Thank you.
You have consultant here. You have to hire.
I got you.
I think the question I wanted to ask, Kiran just asked that question right here. But what I would like to do is, in the Nepali community here in Northern Virginia, there are so many Nepali classes going on, number one. Number two, the Nepali parents, they are trying their best to educate their children in the Nepali communication. That's another point that we have. So, by saying this, you have seen all those scenarios, you have mentioned there is a lot of talk today in this forum, what can be done to the Nepali children. So looking at all those scenarios, what would be if you write down your points from 1 to 3, what would be the points besides the activities that are going on in the Nepali communities? So that's my question. Thank you.
Hi, namaste. I'm Niranjan Adhikari. I had a question same like Mr. Sitola asked. Do you see that, I guess value or even learning experience for American Nepalese kids or young youth to maybe mentor Nepali students back home, and perhaps also do summer abroad or do some kind of program so that they will also be able to learn the language and learn about the country and whatnot. And also, obviously the youth and the students will also learn from you guys. I don't think there's any formal program, but that's something I would suggest that our community organizations and even governments should encourage, so that we will have the exchanges of knowledge and language and culture. Another thing I had was about the very, very young child. Nepal has this social safety net for like old age citizens. We don't have anything such, like you get a stipend or something as a young child. So I think I don't know if I know some countries has it. I don't know if U.S. has a tax credit if you have kids. But do you think, I'm asking probably to Ambassador, whoever here, maybe our honorable congressperson, do you think we should have some kind of program where, children are valued and they're invested on, like whether nutrition or education, public health, all these things? Do you think there is a need for us to invest more in our children? Thank you.
My name is Timilsina. Since we are out of time, I just want to be very brief. So I do not like to compare with the session, but you have done very great session. So it looks like that you have very long experience in that plenary sessions and like this thing. So I'm very much inspired and motivated by this. So my only one question that those students, those kids who come to the United States, maybe after the age of 10 or something like that, they already have that linguistic and cultural foundation back in Nepal. So they can easily continue their language and culture, though they learn English and other culture here in the United States. But in case of those kids who come even earlier than that, and or who are just born in the U.S. and they learn language and culture at home, some sort of, maybe they can speak, they can respond, but once they go to the school, for example, I have a kid, he came just 3-4 months back in the United States, so he's 5 years old, so he can respond and just like talk with us in Nepali. But again, sometime what I think is, at the age of that small age, when they go to school, after going to the school, they understand Nepali, but they expect that they can respond in English rather than the Nepali, because they have more exposure in English in the school and all these things. So what is your suggestion, or what is your thought on that? How can we think about these kids who comes in the earlier age, or maybe who are born in United States? Thank you.
We're gonna have one more question, and then I think we're running out of time because we also have to answer them.
Not good enough. लाज लाग्छ लाज लाग्दैन मेरो एउटा प्रश्न छैन मेरो एउटा निम्तो छ
हजुर
तपाईँहरूको देश त एकदम सुन्दर देश फ्यान्टास्टिक देश तपाईँको मेरो निम्तो छ अमेरिकामा एउटा हाम्रो Appalachian Trail from Maine to Georgia, 2,000-mile trail. People love to walk. Nepal ko ke yo banda dera ramro ke chabani yo the Great Himalaya Trail. 500 miles east to west. 500-mile trail. Our Rotary Fulbright project that we're initiating is going to be bringing experts in appreciative inquiry. Stand up, please. You, yes. We have an incredible network of people who have studied appreciative inquiry in Nepal and who are going to take this to the villages, 100 villages along that trail, engage them in building conservation and development like you have in your national parks, but all along this 500-mile trail. So there will be cultural diplomacy. People can trek from village to village, different cultures, different religions, different environment. And this is an invitation to you to come and join us on the Great Himalayan Trail. And get out of Kathmandu. The pollution is terrible. Get into the hills. You'll want to see Everest, you want to see Annapurna like everybody in the world does, but the Great Himalayan Trail goes through villages after village of every different type. And it's there that by going there, you build ecotourism, economic development, build ecotourism along this trail for all those Nepalis in the Middle Hills who don't get the benefit of all the tourists going to Everest and Annapurna. The people in Everest, Annapurna region, Nepalis they're getting rich. But the rest of Nepal, no. But if we can promote the Great Himalayan Trail and join me, bring yourselves, bring your children, let's all go trekking on the Great Himalayan Trail.
All right. Thank you guys for your questions. So I guess I'll just begin and then we can kind of go down the line. So to start off, first of all, I really do love that whole idea of using Skype to communicate back to Nepal. And I think that as far as language goes and keeping connected with the culture, I feel like that would be an incredible opportunity. I kind of wish I had had that when I was growing up, because I think that it's different between having your parents tell you, oh, you have to speak Nepal to someone in Nepal and getting a first-hand experience of someone your own age and how, because I remember I went to Nepal over winter break and I remember just looking at the little kids there. I came here when I was almost 2. And I just looked at them and the way that they were acting, the things they were saying, it was so interesting to me because I realized that if I had grown up in Nepal, I could have been a completely different person. So environment really does have a big role, and so I think that talking to someone your own age who's in a whole different country, has a whole different experience than you, it would be just an incredible exchange of knowledge and culture and language, and I think that would be incredible. As far as growing up here and coming at such a young age, I know it was brought up that like speaking Nepali at home and the culture, starting at home, which I do agree with. But the issue is for example, in my experience, you go to school 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then I'd have singing practice after school for about an hour. And then you have soccer practice. And then you have Girl Scout. And then during the weekends you had some Girl Scout event, and then you had a soccer game. And so I didn't really spend much time at home. And when I was home, I was doing homework. I was playing with my friends. And so this idea that it starts at home and that is all that we need will not work, because yes, if you come at a later age, you already have that foundation. You already have the language, the culture. I don't remember anything about Nepal until I went when I was 5, and I barely remember that. So for kids that are growing up here, I think that it's really important to go to cultural events, not only that focus around things like the dance and the clothing. Yes, that's wonderful, but we've had that for years now. I think that a lot of it has to do with just being around other Nepali people. Just today alone, I was, sitting over there with some people, and they were talking about how, they lived in the same village or, the same, area in Nepal, and they were having so much fun talking about it. And just, being there for those conversations makes a difference. So I would say that, of course have those events where you dance and you sing, but a lot of culture is just being around people from that same background. So having things like, just having a day where you guys can go and paint something, or you go bowling, you go ice skating, and just organizing those sort of events where you're not just sitting there and watching someone dance or watching someone sing. We have those, and that's great, but just having these opportunities for people of certain ages to just discuss with other kids their own age, and I think that that is the key to maintaining the culture, because at the end of the day, you can go to all these events you want, you can know the culture all you want, but there's a difference between seeing something and talking to someone who's actually in it and having a conversation, and that's what I think.
One of the things, whatever she said, it's absolutely true, because not only I've had friends who came here 6 years ago, and I have friends who were brought up here, and I see a lot of questions and concerns that emerged earlier was because how do we convince our children to go to events? How do we convince our children to learn Nepali or be engaged in Nepali culture? And I don't know if I mentioned earlier, we had a similar a small program a month ago in Berg, where we had discussions talked about what could parents do to engage more with children, and what could children do at home to engage more with parents. And one of the things that was the highlight of this, at one point parents will have to understand that we're far away from Nepal. So it's absolutely impossible to impose Nepali culture 24/7, because while you might be at work, but your children are at school, they're not necessarily with Nepalese people. They're with different groups of people. They're engaging in American culture. They're engaging in other different culture than Nepalese culture. So when children come back home after 7-8 hours stay engaging in something else, parents still have that expectations that they should be automatically, when they enter a home, automatically change, act like you're back in Nepal. That can't happen all of a sudden, right? So one of the things that emerged out of that meeting was that parents will have to act to their children as friends, approach them as friends, because a lot of times you will see that even when I was in high school, I had my friends, right? They would talk my parents and I are going to this game, football game or something. I never went to a football game with my parents. They're always busy at work, and there was never a bridge of communication where we actually had let's do something and just go like hiking or just go watch a movie. It would always be something like there's like a dance program or there's like a movie showing like a Nepali movie showing up. Let's go all together, and they would be with their own crowds and I'll be with my own crowds. So what parents, I think, in my point of view, in my own experience, I would say is that parents should act like friends to them, so that the children wouldn't see you as a parent, but more like friends. So they would want to engage with you as well, not just like because you want to engage with your children, but children also want to engage with you. And more than anything, the most important thing is that when in Nepal we have this. It's a built-in in the culture that like if we were to bring up something that our parents don't like, it'd be like, oh, sano manche bhara thulo manche ko agadi bolnu hunna, that thing, and we respect that. We respect our elders, but there are some things our parents expect us to say everything to them, right? But at the same time, we get judged for saying those things. So having an open mind when talking to your children, talking to us, like that really helps to build that communication. And I think that's the most important thing, because let's say like you become friends with them one day, tomorrow if there's an event, they would automatically ask you to come along. That will like build on over the years. So that's the main thing. Thank you.
So I'd like to say something again, like जब सबैजनाले यहाँ आइसक्यो अनि क्वेसन्सहरु सोध्छु हैन, तर मेन क्वेसन चाहिँ मैले हरेक जनाले नि एउटै क्वेसन सोध्छु मलाई लाग्छ। त्यो चाहिँ के भनेदेखि मैले आफ्नो बच्चालाई कसरी चाहिँ यस्तो अब कल्चरमा गरौँ भनेर त्यस्तो चाहिँ that's the question, right? Everyone's asking that. No matter कसरी सोच्यो मलाई थाहा भयो, त्यो डिफरेन्ट वेमा सोच्यो, तर सोध्न पनि लाइक अगेन म उहाँलाई मात्र हैन सबैजनाको क्वेसन आफूलाई सोध्छु। हजुरले के गरिरहेको छ आफ्नो बच्चालाई, के गरिरहेको छ घरमा, के गरिरहेको छ लाइक प्रयत्नले भनेको जस्तै हजुर लाइक स्ट्रिक्ट मान्छे भएर हजुर आफैले कोहीले हजुरलाई त्यो गर भनेर आफैलाई भित्रबाट आउनुपर्छ, किनभने अरूले भनेर हजुर गर्नु हुँदैन। That's just human nature. You never do things that someone else tells you to do, like forces you to do. हजुरको बच्चामा भित्रैबाट आउनुपर्छ कि लाइक ओहो म त नेपाली हो, मेरो आइडेन्टिटी नेपाली हो, आइडेन्टिटी उनीहरूले बुझ्नुपर्छ। त्यो कुरा बुझाउनलाई के गर्ने त? Take them to Nepal. That's what I'm saying. So मैले अब like there's so many people हैन, parents आउनुहुन्छ यतै बस्नुहुन्छ, सेटल हुनुहुन्छ, पहिले नेपाल फर्किने होइन, पहिले पनि काम छ जे छ। I understand, like I know like you have to be able to like live here, afford it and stuff like that, but if you can, please take your kids back to Nepal, just even for a month or like a week, 2 weeks. त्यति हजुरलाई हजुर maybe this is like a small deal to you, तर हजुरहरुको बच्चाहरुलाई त्यो ठुलो भन्दा ठुलो deal हुन्छ, किनभने they're gonna actually see where their identity is, what their identity is, because Nepal is where their identity is, you know what I mean? So if you really are trying to teach them the background, you have to take them back to the roots. And where is the roots? In Nepal, pretty much. That's how I'd like to say, right? And also the other thing, I was gonna ask, like, someone asked like the question of for the kids, if there should be like a program in Nepal and stuff like that. Before we have that program in Nepal, I feel like politicians and even like everyone who's involved in making policies about that, they have to focus on how they're gonna like afford that to have that program, because that's like, it might seem a small deal to us living in America because we have such a systematic program going through, like, but in Nepal it's because they're constantly changing politics and so that too. Like, no offense, but we need the stability before we ask that question for Nepal itself. So the politics has to be stable, like policies have to be stable in order for that kind of question to rise in. And that's what I think personally.
All right, I want to add one thing to what she said real quick with visiting Nepal. I think that is a very important thing. And also another thing I'd like to point out is, yes, I do know that like we have a lot of family there, and so when we go to Nepal, a lot of it, for me anyways, is seen in 5 years, and of course that is important, but sometimes in that you end up lacking the ability to see Nepal as a country. And so what I was really lucky with is last winter break when I went, I was able to actually travel a little bit. I saw Lumbini, Jiton, and some other places, and that gives kids the opportunity to not only go to Nepal and see their relatives, but see different places, see the gorgeous landscape, and just kind of take in Nepal as a country as a whole, as not just, oh, I have family in Nepal, oh, I'm from there, but what is Nepal? What is the country? What can it bring me? Like, what, with tourism and with everything, and just seeing all of its high points and low points, and then from there, realizing that it's something that you want to preserve and something that you feel connected to. And so, for me, the question is, I plan on eventually going to law school. And so what can I do with being a lawyer that could eventually help Nepal in some way, shape, or form?